Hello everybody, my name is Maltanan and you're watching After Effects A to Z effects on MotionWorks. In this episode we're gonna take a look at channel blur. So let's go right ahead. I'm gonna drag some footage in here. And by the way, this footage comes from Hollywood Camera Works. You've got a downloads tab in here and you can download all sorts of open source footage that you can use to do some testing. It's really cool, so check it out. Let's get back to After Effects. And channel blur is pretty much like any other blur. However, it allows us to blur every channel separately. Of course, we can choose horizontal and vertical or separately, or one of the options separately. And we can blur every single channel separately. So for example, I'm blurring just the red or just the green and so on and so forth. This may seem a little useless at the beginning, but let's get down deeper. For example, let's just key out this footage really quickly using key light. We're just gonna drag it onto the footage, and we're not gonna focus on doing a nice key here. The point here is to show you how the channel blur works on a keyed out or a footage or a piece of graphics that has alpha channel. So to do that, I'm just going to pre-compose it and just move all attributes to a new composition and apply channel blur. So once we do that, we would expect that when playing with alpha blurriness, it would create a soft edge. Unfortunately, the pixels, the green pixels that were there creating a color, are still there, although they are being ungreened, if that's a word. So once we do alpha blur, we're gonna see some artifacting, as you can see right here, and this is expected, so don't freak out when you see that. However, there are ways to fix it, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So first, let's just try channel blur on something different. For example, on a vector file. So let's just create a new composition, maybe 600 by 300, that should be okay. And let's just grab it in here. We can scale it down and apply channel blur again. So now when we're gonna do the alpha blur, this is what you're gonna see, and this looks exactly the same as the keyed out footage. As you can see, there are no info about the pixels on the outside of the logo, therefore they are being replaced by black since we are blurring in both directions. So either if we do it on the key out footage or on a graphics, we get the same result. So how do we fix that? And I will show you that on a more interesting example. Here I've got some PNG graphics rendered out from 3D Studio Max. We've got a robot walking. So right now, if we're gonna apply channel blur, we can again blur every channel separately, and this, as you can see, creates a nice sort of chromatic aberration look. So that's a nice feature right there. It's not mathematically correct, but it still works as an effect. So getting back to the alpha blur, let's just leave the edge behavior at repeat edge pixels so we don't get any blurry edges in here when we pump this value. But how do we deal with those edges? Well, here's the trick. The trick is to use an effect that I think is my personal favorite, which is CC Composite. I'm just gonna put it on this tag, but turn it off for now. First, let's just blur the alpha channel, let's say 20 pixels, so we can really see what's going on, maybe even more, about 90. As you can see, we are feathering into the body of the robot, which is expected. Unfortunately, we have this black halo around him. So how does CC Composite help us in this situation? When we turn it on, we have a lot of options in the Composite Original drop down, and in here we can use Stencil Alpha. If we do that, we are applying original footage alpha onto the effects that we've applied, therefore cutting off all of this black halo. Therefore, we only have the insides feather out. And how can this be useful? Well, it's a really primitive way of creating so-called light trap. Let me just show you what that means. Light wrapping is a natural phenomenon that occurs when you shoot against pretty much anything with a real camera. Basically, the light bounces off everything in your scene and then wraps around the object that you're filming. So to demonstrate that, I'm just gonna throw a really quick background in here. And as you can see, with the background behind our PNG robot and with the alpha blurriness, we can really put that blue onto the robot. It blends a little bit better. Of course, as far as light wrapping is concerned, I highly recommend my own product, which is dedicated to creating light wraps for nice composites. So I guess that's it for channel blur. There's not much more I can tell you. It's a basic blur filter with ability to blur every single channel separately. I hope you've enjoyed it. My name is Multanen. See you next time. Happy After Effecting.